Around 2015, I received a phone call from a man, a physician at the Mayo Clinic, who said, listen, I have to tell somebody this. I have to tell some journalist this. He said his elderly mother lives with him and his wife there, and she had immigrated to America after she was released from prison in communist Czechoslovakia. She had spent 4 years in prison there and was tortured for being a Vatican spy. Why did they call her a Vatican spy? Because she refused their order to stop going to church. Well, the lady came to America, she married, she started a family, but now at the end of her life, she was telling her son, son, the things I see happening in America today remind me of what I left behind. Well, what was she talking about? She's talking about the fact that people are terrified to say what they really think. She was talking about how people could lose their businesses or lose their jobs simply for having the quote unquote wrong opinion. She was talking about how mobs were generated for ideological reasons to drive people to the margins of society. She was talking about the way language is being falsified in service of an ideological agenda. And she was talking about the way that not only the state, but also private institutions are making people think of themselves in terms of group identities, not individual rights. And that all of this seemed to be part of a totalitarian mindset. Well, I thought, Jordan, that what this old lady said was kind of outrageous. You know, my mother is old. She watches a lot of cable news. She's afraid of things too. But then I began to ask people whenever I would meet them at conferences or when I travel, if I would find out that they're from the Soviet bloc, they came to the West from the Soviet bloc, I would simply ask them, are the things you're seeing happen here in North America consonant with what you left behind? Jordan, every single one of them said yes. And if you talk to them long enough, they would be so angry that Americans wouldn't believe them because we just don't think it could happen here. And the more I began to talk to them, the more I began to realize that the cause of this, or the basic cause of this, is that our idea of totalitarianism depends on the Cold War. It comes from Stalinism. It comes from George Orwell's 1984, in which the all-powerful state forced totalitarian ideology on people by making them afraid and by inflicting pain and terror on them. Well, we don't have that now. We don't have gulags. We don't have secret police yet, anyway. We don't have bread lines and all the things that we associate with the Soviet Union. So why is this totalitarianism? Well, I came to understand that this is a softer form and a different form, a form that has more to do with Aldous Huxley's Brave New World than with Orwell's 1984. It is a totalitarianism built on comfort and status and well-being. And we can't really see it because we're looking to the past to tell us what totalitarianism is. But these people, these emigres who lived through it, they sense it. They are our canaries in the coal mine, and we better listen to them. So I wrote the book to not only talk about what they were seeing happening in our time and place that reminded them of totalitarianism, but also I traveled to Central Europe and to Russia to talk to people who didn't emigrate, people who stayed behind to resist. And I wanted to find out from them, what should we in the West do to prepare ourselves for what is to come and to live lives of integrity rooted in the truth and rooted in courage?
So I was just in Eastern Europe talking to people in Romania and Hungary and Albania and Estonia, other Eastern European countries. And it's clear that people there who battled the communists for years and younger people who know of the history of communist totalitarianism in Eastern Europe look at the West and think the same way that the emigres that you described are thinking, that the web of ideas that increasingly possesses, let's say, the radical left and is spreading into the culture at large, bears an eerie and uncanny resemblance to the system of ideas that swamped the Soviet states and so much of the world during the Cold War. And the Eastern Europeans are very apprehensive about that, and I would say for good reason. I also, so that's an interesting commentary on the opinions of people who have actually moved to the West. The people